Yo, welcome. PTW Podcast. We made it, folks. The Super Bowl is right around the corner.
Crazy.
It is Sunday, a few days from the time of this recording. And, of the four possible options that we could have had, I think this was everyone's least favorite just because these two teams have already been there. They've already done that. And it's a rematch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's
rematch from 2 years ago. So
it's a rematch from 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like this is the least hyped anybody's been for a Super Bowl in a long time. Like, it's like today was media day, and it's like nobody's like talking about it.
Yeah,
I see nowhere.
The meme of like who wants what part of the country wants this team to win the Super Bowl, and it's like the Kansas City Chiefs is just like Missouri or like a small part of Missouri, and then Philadelphia Eagles is like a small part of Philadelphia, and then the rest of the country is just like they hope that there's like a meteor strike the game in New Orleans, just some sort of like
sad.
Just some sort of disaster to like prevent either team from winning. It is sad, but you know what? This is what we're getting. This is what we're getting, and it is the Eagles playing the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs on the precipice of possibly three-peating. And if you want to get into conspiracy theories, the NFL, not the Kansas City Chiefs, the NFL already struck a deal with Pat Riley because Pat Riley apparently owns the trademark for the term three-peat. Yeah. So any team who wants to put three-peat on merchandise, on anything like that, Pat Riley owns the trademark. And so the Lakers paid him, the Bulls paid him twice, and now the Chiefs might have to pay him, or the NFL might have to pay him.
Yeah.
If they actually do the improbable and do what many people think that they're going to do on Sunday, with or without the help of the refs.
Yeah.
And win their third Super Bowl in a row.
Yeah, that's another thing that I've been seeing. Like the refs have been coming out. Oh, we're not helping them. You know, like they've had
the refs are pissed
coming out.
The refs are pissed off, man.
It seems. I mean, this really has legs. Like if you want to give something legs, like acknowledge it and then talk about it, right? Yep. Because that's telling us that they know that there's a a lot of people think there's a conspiracy to let these guys keep winning. And with all the calls, we went through it all year. I mean, we watched every game. How many podcasts do I have? How many clips do I have of me talking about Kansas City Chiefs getting a break, they're getting a call, they're getting a no call to help them win a game? And it happened so many times this year. It's crazy. So I think at this point, it's kind of like everybody's on to you. So we know what's going on.
Everyone knows that the Chiefs do get preferred calls. Things do go their way. I didn't have the nerve to watch the clip, but like someone interviewed Patrick Mahomes and said, "Hey, of all your favorite refs that you've had so far, of all the refs that you've played with this year, which one of them is your favorite?"
Yeah.
And I don't know. I felt weirded out watching him answer that question. So I scrolled past it, but what did he say?
Like, oh yeah, the refs do a great job. I respect all the refs, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
Like, dude,
yeah.
Like you're so annoying. That's my only thought. And then Kelsey, the guy asked Kelsey, like, who do you like better, Taylor Swift or the 15-year-old phantom roughing the passer call? And Kelsey was like, I don't know about that question. He's all pissed off. Like, dude, just it's enough with these guys already. I think everybody's tired of them, man. Like, to be honest,
everyone is tired of them for sure. But as the saying goes, man, you got to stop them.
Yeah,
you got to stop them. And I really think in my bones, man, that this might be the team that actually stops them. The Philadelphia Eagles, say what you will about the fan base, say what you will about the coach. Because I don't like either of them.
No.
But I do respect their players. I actually like Jalen Hurts. I think he's a good dude. And I think Saquon, of course, is having like the year of all years.
Yeah.
And
everybody's rooting for Saquon for sure.
Everyone's rooting for Saquon because apparently, what other choice do we have?
Yeah.
But I mean,
but he's definitely a likable guy. He's like
he's a good dude.
and
yes, and to do this in his first year, man, post Giants, to want to go somewhere like that's it. He just wanted to go somewhere that like was gonna give him an opportunity and give him an opportunity to win, and he's both literally and figuratively taking the ball and run away with it, right? So
he's had an amazing year.
He's had an amazing year. And I'll say this much, man. Jalen Hurts had to be Superman 2 years ago again in that Super Bowl against the Chiefs. And if there was ever an MVP for a Super Bowl who lost the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts was that dude. He balled out of his mind in that game and then regressed terribly afterwards, right? The following year.
He did.
And really for the first 75% of this season. But then in the playoffs, he's kind of shown up a little bit. He doesn't have to be Superman anymore. He's got Saquon. They can push all day, man. If they get to the 1 yard line, the 2 yard line, they're pushing their way to a Super Bowl championship, man. I know you and I differ on this. Like, you think Kansas City's going to win it. Well, I don't know if you think that still, but I know that was your initial thought. But we'll get to predictions. But spoiler for me is that I think that of all the teams that could have played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, the ones that made the playoffs, at least, whether it was the Commanders, the Lions, the Eagles, the Bucks, whoever else made it. There's a couple of teams that escape me at the moment. The Vikings, the Packers. This was the only one that I think, and the Rams. This was the only one that I think actually has a shot at beating them.
Yeah, no, I mean, Philly was the top two teams in the NFC this year. I mean, between them and Detroit,
the Lions,
honestly, Detroit just didn't have any defense. Philly's a much more well-rounded team. They've got a really good offense. They've got the best offensive player. He's going to be OPOY. Saquon Barkley, and then they've got really good receivers and AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and pretty good tight end in Dallas Goedert. And so they have a really good offense. They got guys that have been there before. They're hungry. It's just like the Niners coming in last year. It's like everybody, like if the guy had McCaffrey, he was OPOY. Like they had all the things there to kind of have them win the Super Bowl, and they couldn't close it. They got off to a 10-0 lead and they just couldn't score. They just couldn't stay ahead of Mahomes. So I think in this game, I think Philly is going to definitely have the advantage early. They have a better defense. They have a better run stopping defense because that's like something that they're going to try to make Mahomes try to throw him and beat you. And they don't really have the weapons they have. Travis Kelce is not the same guy that he's been in the past. I mean, he shows up in the playoffs now and then, but he can be stopped. And Philly is getting some reinforcements back. I think Graham's going to play, and they got some other guys that are coming in. So I like Philly in this game. I'm like, when I look at it on paper, I'm like, Philly should win this game. But then when I think about what's happened all year, and then going back to last week with the AFC Championship game, just like all these spots, right? Like all of a sudden, like James Cook, he didn't get the first down. Dalton Kincaid didn't get the first down, right? You got to do this tush push. Like, Josh Allen, he didn't get the first down. It's like a turnover on downs. Like everybody saw he made it, right? But like they're gonna not get. So they're gonna give every advantage, and it seems like the Chiefs have been getting this for a couple years now. Every advantage, it seems, is going to go to them. So it's almost like, and it's become a part of like the psyche of the other team, right? Like in Houston, they said, we're going against us and Kansas City and the refs. The Niners before the Super Bowl last year, they're talking about all the holdings that those guys did. They were like the number one penalized team in offensive holding. The Super Bowl comes, Bosa talked about it. Super Bowl comes, not a single holding call, right? So it's like you sit here and you like look, you're expecting a certain thing, and you're expecting a certain way for things to go, and then it seems like the Kansas City always tends to get that advantage, right, when it comes to either how the game's called or just a lot of times too it just breaks, right? Like they don't make the mistakes. So That's another thing about what they've done is they don't make those critical mistakes at the end of games, and they're pretty clutch, right? Like at the end of games, like that's what they kind of the MO, Mahomes' MO. Like if he's like within a score, he's gonna make it happen,
100%,
regardless. So
100%.
That's kind of like what they've done. So having said all that, it was like the long-winded answer. I went all the way to last week to this week to say that, like I would be really stunned if Kansas City doesn't win this game somehow. Like it's going to come down to the last possession, and Mahomes is going to win the game. It's just how it's happened the last few years. It happened in 2020 when they won their first Super Bowl. It's just how it's gone for Mahomes and those guys. They close late. They get all the calls and the breaks during the game to kind of keep them in it, even though they're kind of overmatched at the beginning of these games. And then they somehow find a way to kind of win it. It's just been their MO the entire time. So I can't see that changing.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I would say that the key difference and, in comparison of the last opponent that the Chiefs played, which was the Buffalo Bills, and this opponent, the Philadelphia Eagles, is very key. In watching, and I'll tell you what it is in a second, in watching the Bills Chiefs game for the AFC Championship, one thing became evidently clear to me was that the Bills, I don't think all season I've seen them go for fourth down as much as they went for fourth down in the AFC Championship game. Number one. And number two, I don't think I've seen Josh Allen do so many goddamn QB sneaks.
They were so terrible.
They were trying really hard to be the Philadelphia Eagles. They were trying really hard to push around the Kansas City Chiefs defensive line. And they were in over their heads. They really were. It was the only time all season that I've seen the Bills truly in over their heads, because they were kind of on par. But when they were in those positions, when they were in those third and short positions and they couldn't convert, so it became fourth and short, and they decided to go for it on at least two occasions, if not three, right?
Yeah.
And each time you're running a QB sneak, it didn't work the first time. It didn't work the second time. Why the hell are you doing it a third time? And so when people come to me, not to say that like I'm tired of the conversation of like, oh, that was a first down, or that wasn't a first down. I would agree that it should have been a first down for sure.
Yeah.
But like that shouldn't happen in the first place. That play shouldn't even be a question of like whether or not, like,
it should be an easy one. I mean,
it should be an easy. It's half a yard. Why are you QB sneaking? You have great receivers. You have great tight ends. You have Josh freaking Allen. Figure it out. The
way he QB sneaks is so annoying. He doesn't go straight ahead.
He goes to the left.
Stops and he
goes to the left. And
it's like you're better off just having James Cook run up the middle. It's like it was so annoying because James Cook was running the ball so well. He was the best player in that game.
100%.
And he had an awesome touchdown where he 100% tackle. He went across the plane. That was so money. And they just took the ball out of this guy's hands. Like they should have just kept running the ball.
1,000%.
They would have won the game.
1,000%.
It's just so stupid.
1,000%. So this narrative, at least for that game, of like, like the refs favored the Chiefs because they didn't give Josh Allen that first down. I'll give them that they didn't give him the first down. That should have been a first down. But other than that, the Bills shot themselves in the foot multiple times that game.
They did.
Multiple times that game.
Yeah.
And then Steve Spagnuolo, the best blitz I've ever seen in my life, and that final Josh Allen
That's crazy.
Hail
Josh
Mary
Allen's
throw.
So good. He put that right on Dalton Kincaid's
hands. It was
hands,
Dalton Kincaid. I don't think Kincaid was actually expecting him to actually make that throw. I think he saw him getting blitzed out of his mind. I think he saw him get blitzed out of his mind. He thought the play was dead, and then all of a sudden the ball's in the air. Oh, holy crap! Let me try to see if I can get
to
this.
Him. It
literally fell off his fingertips. Yeah, but all that to say, that if the tables are turned, and Philadelphia is in third and shorts, and they're in fourth and shorts, they're tush pushing. And they're gonna get first downs.
Yeah, they're gonna pick it.
They are going to get first downs. They're going to extend drives, and they're gonna score points. That's the key difference between the last team that the Chiefs played and the team that the Chiefs are going to play.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I go back to that Super Bowl with the Eagles was really close. Was really, really close.
Like, they needed a PI to
Jalen Hurts had to be Superman, and this time he doesn't have to be Superman. That's the benefit, right? That he can kind of sit back and be like, he could game manage his ass off, hand it off to Saquon, do some nice passes to AJ Brown, do some nice passes to the other receivers, and to Devontae Smith, and like, you know, extend drives, but like it's not on him to do it all, right?
They should be able to smash mouth Kansas City. They should be able to do that.
I wouldn't be surprised if the game is close. I can't remember the last time that the Super Bowl was a blowout, to be honest with you. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's a close game. But here's the thing: if you're Nick Sirianni, right? Like, as if Nick Sirianni cares about my opinion, but like, all you have to do is keep the game even, and then get the ball with 2 minutes left, and run that damn clock. Run the hell out of the clock. Give the ball to Saquon. Score some points, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, and do not give Patrick Mahomes any time to do anything. Because if you give him 20 seconds, he's going to score points.
He's going to figure it out.
He's going to figure it out.
He's going to figure it out. That's what he's known for, you know.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that if any team, again, like I said at the beginning of the pod, like if any team has the opportunity to dethrone the Chiefs, it is this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you on this. Like, I definitely think, like I said, Philly's the better team. On paper, they're the better team. They have the more talented offense. They have better defense. Like, I think they have like the number 1 rated defense this year. So, you know, they've got Jalen Carter in the middle. That was a steal, like an absolute steal that they got that guy so late because he had the car accident. You know, but honestly, Philly on paper should win this game. Mm-hmm. And, you know, but like I'm saying, it's like they're going to get hit with this holding call. Like, it's going to be at like a time when Philly has all the momentum, right? They have like something going and a big play happens and it's like, oh, there's a flag, you know. And there you go. It happens every time, bro. I'm just, mark my words, man. When Philly gets some momentum, the refs are going to break that momentum with a couple of like well-timed penalties. That's fine. That's what happens every time.
Hand it off to Saquon again. Just hand it off to Saquon again.
Keep it going. First and 30.
They can't do 4 holding calls in a row, bro. Like, they'll do 1 or 2.
They will.
And then Vegas will call and be like, all right, calm down. Calm down.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like where my head's at for this. Like, have you been looking at any of the prop bets or looking at any of this stuff at all the different things you can bet on in the Super Bowl? Or talking, you know, like the coin toss and the length of the national anthem and all this other stuff, or
like that.
Paying attention.
Well, those are things that like they always do for every year, right? Like,
yeah.
The last time I bet on the Super Bowl, I actually won the coin toss bet, but then I lost like a follow-up bet. I forgot what it was. I forgot like whether it was like, I think I lost like
will there be a safety?
Yeah, something like that.
Remember that one was like a crazy one because that happened in that Denver Seattle Super Bowl.
Yes.
And it was like, what?
Yes.
Yeah.
As far as the trajectory of, okay, let's talk about like this. All right. If the Kansas City Chiefs pull off the improbable, and they three-peat, and they win, what is their legacy in the pantheon of the NFL?
It's, you know, it's crazy because not a lot of people are giving them much credit. It seems like a lot of people are kind of poo-pooing them. They're kind of like, hey, they're not that great of a team. Like you've been hearing like from some of the like the Hall of Famers, like guys like Jerry Rice, guys like, you know, Terrell Owens, like these guys that you hear, you know, on these podcasts, and like none of them seem to be like, oh yeah, they're the best team ever, right? They're going to be the only team. First of all, they're the only team that's been to 3 straight Super Bowls after they've won the first 2. Like, I know the Bills did it. but they didn't win any.
Bills did it. Miami did it, but Miami lost the first one and then won the following two.
So they're the first team in history to have the opportunity to three-peat.
Correct.
And the first team that has won two and is in the Super Bowl. So
Correct.
like they've already kind of made that history, right? So now can they finish the job? And to me, I'm not really looking at them as like they're one of the best teams ever. I feel like there's just been too much controversy with them, and like just not enough like, hey, they won this game because they they crushed the competition. They just like look like they were a juggernaut and they were like so good. It just seems like they just kind of like hung around and then they win in the end. It's just their MO, like I said earlier. And it just hasn't been done in a dominating fashion.
100%.
And it seems like a lot of times they've won at the expense of other teams, like making mistakes. They've won at the expense of, like other teams getting a bad call, other teams making a mistake, like like muffing a punt, or like a bad interception, poor clock management, all these things that have happened, right? They get a pass interference call, like against Philadelphia last time. They get a muff, like the muff punt against the Niners. They misses the extra point, gives them the opportunity to kick a field goal to tie the game at the end of overtime or at the end of regulation. So like just all these things that kind of happen, and they're the benefactors. And it's not like they've like went through and they're always like the best team and they were like the most dominant team and they've like done this for 3 years straight. And everyone's like, wow, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's more like everyone's like, man, these guys just like, how do they get back there? And everybody's like annoyed with them. Like that's like, at least that's how I feel. But
I agree with you. I as you were talking, it made me think of, all right, so the Chiefs have the opportunity to three-peat, be considered amongst one of the best teams of all time. And then I'm like, okay, well, who was another team that was a dynasty that was like one of the best teams of all time? Obviously the New England Patriots, right? Who were dominant for so long. And then what was arguably their best season, even though they didn't win the Super Bowl that season, which was the 2007 perfect season. So I pulled up the 2007 perfect season as you were talking. Yeah. And with the exception of 2 games, 3, I'm looking at it right now, with the exception of 3 games, every victory of those 16 straight wins that they got were by more than a score. We're talking 38-14, 38-14, 38-7. That's 3 games in a row that they scored 38 points. And then 34-13, 34-17, 48-27, 49-28, 52-7, 24-20, 56-10, 31-28. I mean, like, you're talking about the average score is 35 points, 36 points per game. Okay.
It was so good.
That team was phenomenal. In comparison to the Kansas City Chiefs this year, who are like barely winning.
Well, they have the record for most like one score
victories, right? Yeah. And again, it's not how you win, it's just the fact that you win. So, whatever, a win is a win in the NFL. But I think that's why that narrative is there. Like, people are looking at them, I was like, dude, they almost lost to the Carolina Panthers. They almost lost to the Denver Broncos. They almost lost to, there's so many almost lost.
I mean, it's like every game they almost lost.
The Las Vegas Raiders.
We're like, damn, they were so good and they dominated.
They almost lost to the Las Vegas Raiders, right? The Raiders fumbled the snap or whatever. And, you could argue that, the Chiefs could have come back. But, like, that's when you look at that and you go, okay, well, now it's like the myth, not the myth, but like the mystique of the Chiefs is almost like rubbing off on these other teams, man. Yeah. These other teams who like are playing don't screw it up football because they're like this close to beating the Chiefs. They want to dethrone them so bad. So now they're playing super safe, don't screw it up football. Yeah. And that's why I go back to that Bills AFC Championship game. It's just like, what? The play calling was so suspect, in my opinion.
It was.
And it was one of those things where I'm like, I don't know what you guys are doing. I don't know what you guys are doing.
and win the game. All they
give it to Cook and run the damn ball over and over again. Why is he out?
Like the play call, like I don't know what he was doing. He wasn't throwing the ball downfield. It was weird, man. It's like these guys, they are psyched out at this point. Like it's become a mental game.
1,000%.
You know, like it's gonna take these guys to just like come out strong and dominate, like, and then not give them any legs.
1,000%. 1,000%.
Like, so think about like the best teams in history, like, right? You think about the 80s Niners, the 90s Cowboys, right? The 70s Steelers, like all these teams. It's like when you think about how they won, they just dominated that decade, right? They were winning, you know, like the 2000 Patriots.
The 2000 Patriots, exactly. Yeah.
So it's just like these teams were so dominant, and now we're into this, I
2020 Chiefs.
I would say
the 2020 Chiefs,
the Chiefs decade, right?
Yeah,
and it's just like, dude, these guys have not dominated anything. They've barely won. It's just amazing that they've won this much.
No, I agree and I disagree. It's not that they didn't dominate per se, but it's just like I know people dislike this dude, but like Patrick Mahomes, that's it. Yeah. It's a generational talent who just sometimes pulls off the most ridiculous crap.
Yeah.
At the most opportune times, you know.
I'd argue his best season was actually like 2018, like when he was like his first year starter, right? Like,
sure.
Like, that's when he was his best. And it seems like every year it's like he's digressing, right? Like he was like, he came in the league, it was like this. He was like throwing for touchdowns. He was like all over the place. You know, they go in the championship game, they lose to Brady, and then they go back and, you know, they win, and then they end up winning the Super Bowl, and then they lose to the Bengals, right? And then they go back to the Super Bowl, they win. They go back, they win. They go back, they win. But every year, it's like it seems like he's taken a step back, and his team doesn't seem as dominant. It's like they're on this trajectory, but they're winning.
You know what's interesting?
It's like the strangest thing.
As I felt the exact same way because I'm a Dolphins fan of watching the Patriots in the 2000s. I felt the exact same way, with the exception of that 2007 season. I always felt like, God, this team is beatable. I don't know why people can't beat this team. Yeah. Tom Brady is not that good. If you put any other quarterback in the New England system, they'll be just as good as Brady. And then I was proven correct when in 2008, the following year of the perfect season, Brady gets injured in the second game, and Matt Castle takes them to an 11-5 record. But Miami also gets an 11-5 record, and they go to the playoffs, and the Patriots don't. So like, I was like, oh, see, I'm right. But like hindsight, I look at those years and I'm like, that team was incredible, because you look at it this way. Romeo Crennel, you know, leaves the Patriots, does diddly squat. The other dude, I can't remember his name. The guy who coached for the Lions. Do you remember his name? The guy who was the coach for the Lions. The dude with the big beard.
Schwartz?
I can't remember. No, not Jim Schwartz. No, the coordinator. Doesn't matter.
It was the coordinator. Oh yeah.
He was like the DC coordinator for the Patriots. Goes to the Lions.
Yeah, Matt Patricia.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nothing. Josh McDaniels gets two different head coaching positions in the AFC West. Absolutely nothing happens.
Yeah.
There was a magic with Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and, you know, whoever the players were at that time. I mean, over the course of 20 freaking years, they had people come and go, right? They had, you know, Gronk was in the later years. You had Aaron Hernandez before he turned crazy. You had all these other players who were big time. Like now they're like now coaches and stuff, right? Like Mike Vrabel and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So that's the combination.
Vrabel's back.
Vrabel's back, exactly. Andy Reid went to the Super Bowl went to the NFC Championship multiple times with the Philadelphia Eagles. got to the Super Bowl one time with Terrell Owens on his team and lost. Okay. And he was one of those coaches, sort of like a Marvin Lewis, who was always good, but not good enough, who never could get over the hump, anything like that. Gets fired from Philadelphia, gets replaced by Chip Kelly, immediately takes the Kansas City job, gets Alex Smith from the Niners.
Yeah.
Has a little bit of success. I loved Alex Smith as a Chief. I thought he killed it.
He was good. And, you know,
he was very good.
And he had the same stuff was happening to them, too, that was happening in Philly. They were losing in the playoffs. Like, I remember they had a huge lead. I think it was against Andrew Luck and the Colts, and they came back and beat them. And it's just like, it was like, oh, same old Andy Reid. And then they
draft. They take the gamble. They move up in the draft to specifically get Mahomes, and the rest is history. I think it's not necessarily that Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. I'm not saying that. Because from a statistics standpoint, from an arm strength standpoint, from all that kind of stuff, you could argue that there's better quarterbacks. I'm not saying he's the best. But that tandem, right, works the same way that Belichick and Brady worked. The same way that Montana and Walsh worked. The same way that, like, you know, Aikman and
Jimmy Johnson.
Thank you, Jimmy Johnson worked, right? Like, there, you have to find that combo, whatever the hell that combo is. And I'm not saying Nick Sirianni
Shannon and Purdy.
And maybe. I mean, Purdy obviously, like, killed it in his first 2 years, regressed a little bit, but, you know, that's the jury's still out on that one.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Sirianni and Jalen Hurts are that combo, but I am saying that the level of talent that Philly has, including getting Vic Fangio as their DC after spending a year in Miami, the pieces are there.
Yeah.
The pieces are absolutely
there.
That's
for sure.
Right?
I mean,
and so, you know, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, look at Philly last year. I mean, so Philly goes to the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Niners in that championship game,
mm-hmm.
You know, where Brock Purdy hurt his arm and, you know, he couldn't throw the ball.
Yeah.
And, you know, they get to the Super Bowl. They outplay Kansas City most of the game. Kansas City, in the end, they get the last possession. They get a pass, a well-timed PI, and they end up, Kansas City ends up winning the game. Next year's kind of a Super Bowl hangover, a little bit Philly, but they start off really hot. They start off like 12-1 or whatever it was. And they were going to, you know, run away with the first seed and, you know, everything else. They play the Niners. Niners crushed them. Niners had been waiting for revenge, right? Like all from the previous year. There was so much smack talk from the NFC Championship game. And Niners crushed them. Niners then ride that momentum and they go to the Super Bowl. They lose to the Chiefs. Then Philly comes out. They're like, okay, we're not going to just like settle. We're going to like go after a big fish, right? They trade, they get Saquon, and then Saquon has like probably one of the best offensive years in like league history. I think he's tied Jerry Rice for the most like 60-yard plus touchdowns this year. It's just like, it's insane how good a season Saquon had. And then here we go. Philly has rode that momentum, you know, like where they are, you know, from 2 years ago, essentially. Like they've been building this since they named Jalen Hurts the starter, you know, 4 years ago, right? When he came in at first, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, this guy, it was like people didn't really know, like, hey, is this guy going to be good? He's going to be okay. Like, you know, all that everybody knew was that he was benched for Tua in the national championship game, right?
Yep.
And that's what everybody knew him for. And they're like, oh yeah, he probably can't really throw the ball. And, you know, he really came out and finally got his chance, you know, that first year, his first rookie year.
Yep.
And like, he really impressed people with like his ability to throw the ball down.
He was a third round pick.
Yeah.
He went all the way to the third round.
Yeah.
You know, and that same draft with Tua and Herbert and Burrow and Jordan Love and etc. But I present to you exhibit C in my, you know, Philly can beat Kansas City argument here. is Super Bowl 40, man. Super Bowl 40, the pandemic Super Bowl. Kansas City Chiefs, the number 1 seed, who were 14-2 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, granted, the game was in Tampa, so a little bit of a home field advantage, but whatever, who cares? Yeah. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 5 seed in the NFC, who are 11-5, and the Buccaneers walloped the Chiefs, bro, 31-9. The Chiefs didn't score a single touchdown. It was field goal, field goal, field goal.
It was the blueprint for the defense was like,
absolutely.
So they literally played the same defensive scheme that the Niners had played with them the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching the Super Bowl, and I was so pissed because I was like, I was thinking the Niners were doing this to them. They were holding them down, and then suddenly in the fourth quarter, right, they throw that ball to Tyreek Hill, and like it's all history from there, right?
Right.
And they just like for some reason it just broke their brains, right? But the Tampa Bay, they just came out. They did the same thing. They got pressure on Mahomes. They rushed 4 guys. They played coverage, and they just Mahomes couldn't do shit, and Kelsey couldn't do shit, and that was the blueprint to beat them. It was the blueprint last year too, and the Niners were doing that too until Dre Greenlaw just like went to run on the field and he tore his Achilles. If that doesn't happen, I know that they win that game because they were just dominating them defensively. They had come up with the defensive game plan to beat them, and Greenlaw is an enormous part of the 49ers defense, and that was such an enormous loss. They just weren't able to, Kansas City was able to start scoring, and they weren't able to stop them. They weren't able to stop. And Travis Kelce, he did not have a catch in the first half, and then he comes out and he has a bunch of catches. In the second, and basically that's how they won the game. And so, if you look at, hey, how is Philly going to do this? Like they're going to have to play that four down. They're going to have to get pressure on Mahomes without blitzing. They're going to have to play like man coverage against them. And then make sure they spy Mahomes because, he's going to take off and try to run with it like he always does. Yeah. And that's really the keys, to defending the Chiefs. Like you should be able to contain Kelsey at this point. Like he's not the Kelsey of old. He's slow and he just kind of sits down. You just got to stick with him. I don't think like being like too physical with him because he's still pretty physical. But you just got to, stick with him and, like make Mahomes not want to throw it to him. Yeah. Because like Mahomes stopped kind of throwing to him like the last couple of years. Like I had him in fantasy 2 years ago, the year they won the Super Bowl against the Niners. And Kelsey was like a no-show the whole season. He was like fighting with Andy Reid like the entire season because he wasn't getting the ball. Like he was like in the doghouse. And this year he just kind of like accepted his fate. Like he was like pretty much like absent all year. He had like 1 or 2 good games. And, it's like, this is the game, though, that you have to stop him because that's who Mahomes is going to look for in the clutch.
Yeah. In my opinion, the Eagles win. I think, again, everything from having Saquon to the ability to do tush push, which they didn't have when they first played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. The tush push was not a thing.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So
last
a new wrinkle. And these teams have not, to my knowledge, have not played each other since, I believe. So this is going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Who do you got? Who do you got winning? What's your final prediction?
Yeah. So I was thinking we should probably we'll do our predictions now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go. I'll give you the score and I'll give you the winner.
Okay.
And like through all of it, I know that I've talked about Kansas City, and I think there's no way that they're not going to win in three-peat. But honestly, like I just think Philly's a better team. So I think even with everything that's going to go against Philly, the refs, the this, the that, the Taylor Swift, the Swifties, they're all around. I think Philly's going to win the game, and I think Philly's going to win handily. Actually, I think Philly's going to win 35-17.
Okay. 35-17 Philly.
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little bit closer. I'm going to say screw it. I'm going to say 31-30. I'm going to say the Chiefs are up 30-28. 2 minutes left. Philly gets the ball. Saquon runs it down their throat. They're out of timeouts.
Yeah.
The game goes all the way to 4 seconds. Philly takes a timeout. They kick a field goal and they win 31-30. That's what I'm thinking.
All right. So I think too. So at this point, I think Kansas City was favored in this game. So,
yes, they are.
So Philly is the underdog. So
they are favored. They're not favored by much. They're favored by 1.5. They're not favored by much.
It's a very close spread this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as far as MVPs, who do you think the MVP is going to go to this year?
It's Saquon.
Yeah.
It's Saquon.
I'm in the same boat. I think Saquon, it's just like that year. He's having that year. I think he's going to have the Super Bowl that I was hoping that Christian McCaffrey was going to have last year, where, he just dominates. He has a couple of huge runs. I'm going to say he's going to run for 200 yards in this game.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
And I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm going to say 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, Super Bowl MVP.
I love it. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let us know as always what you think, who's going to win, who's the MVP, all that lovely stuff. Who are you picking? Are you going to be even watching? Are you even interested in this Super Bowl?
Yeah, I know. That's another thing. Like, I'm not going to watch this game. Like, what?
There's a part of me that's very intrigued. There's part of me that's very, very intrigued. We'll see what happens.
Pick your squares, everybody.
Pick your squares. And until next time, my name is Amir. This is Tossie the Football Greek. We will see you all following the Super Bowl. Make sure to stay tuned for that. Take care.
Peace out.